Hey, what's good, people, and welcome back to the channel. Today, for another review, I am joined by the lovely David Stark of WatcherPass.com, and the two of us, we're getting ready to jump into our review of the new A24 film, Talk to Me, which is going to be releasing in theaters July 28th. Before we get started into everything, David, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me. This is much more professional than what I normally have on my channel, so I'm excited to see your process. Let's go.
Please. Listen, before we actually get into this review, I think now when you hear A24, and I mean, me and David, we extensively cover independent films, so this doesn't really catches us off guard. But I think now there's this new sense of expectations when it's an A24 film that is going to be good. This film is directed by two YouTubers, Danny and Michael Philippou, and with the sort of the buzz that's been coming out of the film festivals, with it being an A24 film, I think there was a lot of expectations for this film to truly deliver. And we're going to talk about if we liked it or not. And I think we probably should start there, but I just want to make sure everyone is checking out the right film. This is Talk to Me from A24 of 2023. Yes, the Don Cheeto and Cheetah Whale Ejiofor version of Talk to Me is a whole different film, whole different genre from 2007. It's a classic. It's actually a pretty good film too, but this is a different film. But yes, the A24.
I think it was really bold of Blumhouse to like take that film and then remake it into this movie. Like you can see the connections. There's one's historical, one's a little more fantastical, but there's definitely a thread there.
Fair enough. But yeah, let's start off with, did you like this film? Did it meet your expectations, and any other tidbits?
So I'm going to amend what you said about A24. I think A24 films will always be interesting. That's how I think. If it's an A24 film, like, okay, this is either going to be like really good, really bad, but it'll at least be something that we haven't seen before. And I think Talk to Me, it met my expectations. I didn't really know what to expect going in, but especially from first time like directors, this was a fantastic horror film. Like, they seem to definitely love the genre. There was a ton of suspense. The practical effects were fantastic. So I really liked it. There were a few things I didn't love as much, but overall, like, I was pretty impressed with this film, kind of, especially from its humble origins. And it just makes me happy that, someday you and I will be able to direct our own horror film. We'll have to think of some other movie to kind of spoof on, but we'll figure that out.
You ain't lying about that one. Yeah, definitely tips the hat to the YouTubers who go by the name RackaRacka. Even seeing sort of the BTS upon them, doing a film, talking about the finances, which we know a lot about as well too. We speak to a lot of independent filmmakers, but just seeing the whole process to them getting this picked up by A24 and then hitting the film festival circuit, and then a lot of Q&A, still more to come as we even doing this recording with them. The humble beginnings for sure. And I resonate with that, and I'm beyond me like enjoying this film, which I did. I already think it's a win no matter what, because just to see them really get together and do this, and in the production as well, whether the story or whatnot was good, they did something that was completely solid. So but yeah, this is certainly a watch for me.
Hey, use mine.
I did enjoy this film as a big horror enthusiast. I hear some folks saying this is the scariest movie they ever seen. I wouldn't go that far, but it did a lot of good things, and it didn't truly feel like other films. There's mild inspirations from things, but this film, I enjoyed, and we'll get into it. But listen, if you folks have never checked out David over at WatcherPass.com, David gives you really short tidbits in terms of, should you watch the film, is it a watch, is it a pass, and so on. And then he also does very extensive breakdowns of the films, and then he truly gives you what you want, folks, and that's the spoilers. And we're going to follow suit here too, so we're going to make sure we keep the first half non-spoiler and then we're going to go right into it because I think I'm very curious to hear your thoughts about it. Me and David did watch this together side by side. We did not talk about it afterwards. So this is our first time getting together to discuss our feelings, our emotions, our reactions, all that good stuff.
I think you said, like, I've got something super important to do now, so I gotta head out, and
Yeah,
I just
sleep.
kind of sat there.
Sleep.
But to your point on like the humble beginnings of this film, during the Q&A after that you missed because you had to like bounce and
Sleep.
beat traffic, sleep, traffic, all that stuff. They said, like, so the main star was Sophie Wilde, who played Mia, who was this like kind of charismatic, out there character. But the directors said that they loved her so much that they like went with her versus some like more established name, and because of that they lost $1 million in funding. And for like an independent film that is trying to kind of figure out what to do, to like take that leap of faith is again just a testament to these filmmakers and kind of their vision, and their kind of like, you know, what their vision was and how kind of geared in they were to it.
Yeah, thank you. I slightly heard that when I was walking. I was like, $1 million, like, that's going to be a story. But let's talk about it. And my biggest tagline for this film, in most of these films where you're dealing with supernaturals or the beyond, is once again we have a group of folks where if you play stupid games, you are absolutely rewarded with stupid rewards and stupid prizes. And we have a group of teenagers who has this hand. This hand is a connection to summon spirits, and beyond connecting with them, where whoever is connected with the hand can see the spirit, and the spirit can take the spirit can be anybody. You don't get to just select who it's going to be. It could be anybody, but then you can take it one step further, and you can say, is it talk to me? Well, you talk to me is when you do the hand, and then
that's how you initiate it, and then you say, I let you
let
in,
me in. I let you in. Yeah, which is
never a good idea, right? Never a good idea.
And this is a game, you know, and all of us were teenagers at the point, so you know, we did games. I don't know, regular games, spin the bottle. I don't know. You could even go as far as the Ouija board, but we did not go after things that we knew was proven and tested, and that's what these kids did for fun.
I'm sure you did Bloody Mary. Come on.
Or Candyman. No.
Well, Candyman is fact. I would never do that. But.
Not at all. Yes. But you got 90 seconds to let yourself be possessed while everybody recorded you, because they're millennials. But in fact, it can create horrific moments potentially. And sad enough, we have a character, Jade, played by Alexandria Jensen. She's amongst the same age as these teenagers, but she has a little brother, and the little brother Riley, who is just a fly on the wall. But he's game, but with warning, Jay's like, no. But of course, there's other folks that are just like, well, just give him 60 seconds. What's gonna happen? And you know, he's possessed, and it just goes fatally wrong. So this is a story of the kids. There's just sort of two stories here. There's a story of the kids and their protection of Riley, who this possession went drastically wrong, life-threatening. And now folks are kind of reeling it back. You know, parents are getting involved, like what happened, and authorities are getting involved, like what happened, but Riley's life is in danger. And then you also have Sophia Wilde's character, Mia, who is motivated by this to connect with her mother who had passed. And we get the story of the mother's passing, and the mother-daughter connection, as well as the daughter-father connection. That's all explored, which I'm vaguely talking about that because that's where I really want to get in there. But Dave, is there anything else I kind of missed about what this film is about?
No, you got the what the film was about really well. I loved the way that this film started, because it's like a really kind of shocking horror start, but it also doesn't tell you anything. So it kind of balances that line where it doesn't give away the whole plot, but you know that something messed up is happening. Like it starts with a bang, well, a slice, I guess, and then you know, then goes into the kind of teen aspect. So I thought that was a really smart way to kind of draw you in and get like show you the consequences of this game without giving you too much about what's going to happen.
Yeah. I think again, still on the non-spoiler side, the film does what the film does well in terms of building the film here. I thought the cinematography was really good.
Yep.
They really, when it comes down to the atmospheric horror, it wasn't there at times because it needed to feel like a group of teens kicking it, drinking, doing all the silliness. But the moment where things needed to be heightened, I don't know where the switch was at, but there was just a sense of just dread instantly to the point that, like, I got to be honest, the film kind of made me uncomfortable at times because I just wasn't expecting to have this on and off switch with things. There was no crescendo into when things got brutal, where things got gory. It just was just one moment you're this way, the next moment you're this way. And I think that's really cool because I think it again, connecting to my teenage self, that's like the level of what irresponsibility is. You're thinking it's all good.
Yeah.
Until it's not,
You're invincible until that moment happens.
Exactly. Yep. And I thought they did a really good job with, taking us on that ride and letting the cinematography, even the score, really tell a story within its own. And then the acting. Listen, I'm not familiar with any of these cast members, but from Sophia, from Alexandria, even to Joe Bird, who plays Riley. I mean, all these kids somehow, some way gave you a sense of interest to just wonder, one, I mean this in a very nice way, just how stupid could they be? but I'm for it. Even the character Haley, played by Zoe, just wondering, like, and you see these different personalities, the bully, the one who wants to be the bully but truly scared, the one that's going with the flow but truly is scared of authority, the little kid that's the fly on the wall, the courageous one that's self-motivated, and then the one who's trying to actually be responsible but still trying to exist within the space. You see all these different characters that you recognize, but like they definitely grab your attention. I think that's truly from actors I'm not familiar with. I think that's a testament to their acting in keeping us interested for this ride. But what about you before we go into the other side of things, the dark side of things?
Yeah, no, I mean, I thought the acting was great. Like you said, you got a bunch of kids, and it was kind of fun to see them kind of like skirt that line between being stupid kids, which I think they did really well, and then into the more kind of serious horror aspects as well. And hats off to Sophie Wilde. Like you mentioned, that this film turned on a dime, and a lot of that was when she was involved, and like when she had to kind of like use the hand and kind of have the effects of the hand showcase. Like there was the initial scene where she kind of like gets possessed. That is very, very unsettling. That was like, oh damn, like we are going some dark places here, and that was really nice. I don't know if this is going into your darker aspects, but I thought the practical effects were phenomenal. Like they were really good. Like I love horror films that use practical effects, and this one did it perfectly. There aren't a ton because it does kind of balance that silly kid aspects with the horror, but when they're there, they are grotesque, wet, like bloody. Like it is amazing to see.
Yes, you read it right off of my notes because it's really treading the line between what's considered spoilers and not spoilers. So let's get right into it, folks. As we get into spoiler territory, the dark side of things, again, Talk to Me is releasing in theaters July 28th. Now we're going to get into specific details. I'm starting right off with where you said the practical effects. Now listen, when we did have these possessions and when these folks were grasping the hand, which you're right, I wish we had just a little more backstory. And while I did wish that, I also thought it worked the way it did, because the fact that the first thing I questioned was, oh, this doesn't work. And it definitely don't work where everybody could witness it. So I'm like, there's going to be an art of like, we found this thing, blah, 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 blah. I thought it worked. I heard it work, and it doesn't work until somebody tries to buy themselves. But the fact that like it worked and everybody was just watching was kind of like, oh. And then you mentioned one of the first possessions. And when we got that demonic entity, it looked amazing. It was sickening, but I guess at that point I was on a high where I said I wanted more. And you're right. They definitely tread very carefully with the budget on their practical effects, because there was every kid got possessed, and Mia got possessed multiple times, and for every possession is a demon. I believe we only seen 3 demons, one being her mother, one being that initial one, and then one being the toe sucking one. I
Hey, you know what? You got some Quentin Tarantino in this film, also, right? Like it's influences all around.
But I wanted to go full tilt with it. I can't even lie. It was really good. And I was like, you know what? Let's I want to see everybody's deal. I want to see who everybody is connecting with. But you know, funding reasons. But when they did, by all means, was it really good. I want to throw something to you really quick, and then you can give me your thoughts on the spoiler side. Did you have an issue with the toning at all, from it being kind of comedic and then really almost dark and mildly sadistic at times, to the toe sucking things, where like there was definitely a bit of raunchiness in there, but like did you have an issue with the toning?
No, I loved it. I like when it, you know, switches back and forth.
Yeah.
A lot, and you know, towards as the film progressed, it, you know, became more on the dreadful side, more on the tension side. But I loved that start where you've got dumb kids doing dumb things, and then all of a sudden, like, oh shit, like this is the moment, this is the bad decision that we made, what's going to happen. Like, I really liked how it kind of flipped back and forth. And then, yeah, to your point about this shouldn't work, I liked that it had this like weird mythos to it. It felt very kind of throwback to, at least when I was growing up, probably when you were growing up, like you had these rumors that would circulate among the kids, and like these rules for these games that would happen, and like, there was no basis for it, right? It was before the internet. You couldn't look up and see what these rules were. This felt very much like that, like a throwback, like party game where like, oh no, here's the rules. Like Jenny told me this, and you gotta do this and this and this. So
yeah, agreed. Yes, and no, I didn't have an issue with the tone as well. I thought it was bold to an extent, but it definitely was executed right. Now, the one thing I did have, and you can tell me if I'm just out of line here. Now, these kids were Australian, correct?
Oh yeah.
They really reeled back in on the accent, and I know folks can say what you want. I have family in Australia, so I on both coasts, so I definitely hear the different how the different accents, or I say the different tiers of accents. But I think it was introduced very early in the film, but then it kind of went away. I am wondering, was this a measure to be marketable within the States? Which, yes, that makes some folks comfortable, but no. And again, a testament to the type of films we watch. We watch all types of films. Yeah. It wasn't necessary. The film would have been just okay if they would have just kept it in full Australian accent. And I think that, you know, on the other end, if there was a dialect coach involved, then yes, they completely nailed it on that note. Because I felt and I could sense it early, and I was like, oh, with a filmmaker, so it makes sense. But then towards the end of the film, I was like, oh, it feels very American in terms of the accent. And you know, again, for the reasons, could be, hey, we want to be more marketable for the States, or maybe that's just the decision that they felt was just best overall. Did you have a problem with this?
No, but it's good that you bring it up, because at the start I was like, this is tough to understand. Like, I'm not, like, I always wear earphones when I go to movies because I don't want to mess my hearing up, and I had to like take them out because I was having trouble understanding. But then as the film progressed, it became easier. I was like, oh, maybe I'm just becoming Aussie, like maybe I'm just like going down under. But no, I guess maybe it's because they dialed back the accents. So I didn't have a problem with it, but I also didn't notice it. So
yeah. All right, going right back to you. Talk to me about some of the things you really like in full details, and some of the things you just wasn't a fan of.
You gotta hold the hand when you say talk to me. Remember, you gotta do that. You gotta do the ritual. Boom. So going into spoiler, the things like, I loved the kind of slow buildup. I called it the tension in my review, like the way that this film just like kept building and building and like giving you more and more dread as this film progressed. I loved the ending. I thought the ending was fantastic. We won't go into it just yet. But I didn't love how some of the aspects felt a little unexplained. And I also didn't love Mia's character as much as I normally do in like a horror movie protagonist. She felt irrational at times. She felt a little selfish at times. And maybe that's just like, you know, you're looking at the lens of, you know, what's probably going to happen, so she shouldn't be making a decision. But there was some that I was like, no, like, don't do that. That is a bad decision. And she did it anyways. So
yeah, I'm never a fan of anybody who's manipulative, but I will say my issue with that, to stick on Mia, was I do not think they build the emotional connection with the viewers
Mhm.
and fully fleshed out Mia's grief.
Yeah.
Mia's motivation is because her mother's death, untimely death. We see the bond with them, great, but there's still a lot of gray areas as to how her mom died, which they did go down, but the residuals of her mother's death. It just seems like she missed her mom and she wanted to get an explanation as to how her mom really died, which
Yeah.
is one thing. But grief is a whole nother beast, and you never truly felt that. I at times was like, this is just a kid who sees an opportunity to say, hey mom, how's it going? Oh, so by the way, how'd you die? Instead of like, mom, I missed you so much, I need you. What, I can't exist in this world without you. I'm willing to do whatever I can in order to be connected with you. And I think that right there makes the Mia character comes off, as you mentioned, selfish and irrational. And a little all over the place, and detrimental to everyone around her, which I don't know if that makes sense. I mean, it could have been explored if they would have went kind of deeper into the grief, but like, she clearly cared about the folks around her, because we've seen her have a connection with Riley. We've seen her have a connection with Jade. We've seen her and her ex-boyfriend, best friend's current boyfriend, triangle weirdness of a thing that I guess we needed, but did we? But like, still, she cared, and they showed that. Except they never let us connect to the idea of the grief that she's dealing with her mom, because yes, they talk about it. The mom had more grief for being dead than she being alive, missing her mother. And while this film is truly the journey of Mia and her connection with her mother, it just seems like they kind of lost sight with the other elements to it. And I think, as somebody who loves horror, I think that surrealism in horror, like the balance of grief and what does grief look like on a day-to-day, is easily something that everybody can relate to, and easily something that you got a whole nother element to your film to have folks really be on the edge of their seats.
Yeah, for sure. I think to your point about them not establishing it at the start, you kind of feel like Mia is almost this ungrateful child, like, because she like doesn't talk to her dad, and then just like goes and adopts this other family, and you don't get that sense of, like you said, like the depth of her grief, the like amount that she misses her mom. Of course she misses her mom died, but you don't get like that need that she should be expressing, that you should have established by the time that we get into some of the later scenes.
Yeah So that, that was pretty much my issue. But other than that, I mean, look, the comedy was there. I enjoyed that, as the other stuff we talked about in Turner Productions. But overall, it's a really, really solid film, and I am truly interested to seeing what these filmmakers do going forward, because now they're in their bag. Now they got a taste of success. They got some money coming in. That can only mean, especially as content creators or YouTubers, you listen, there's no stopping the grind for them. So I can't wait to see what they do next. And that goes for the entire cast as well too. I'm definitely looking to see Sophie in more films, and I'm actually really curious to see what Joe does as well too. Joe as Riley. The practical stuff with this guy bashing his head against the wall, and
that was painful. So painful to watch.
And the sound mixing of that just had me. I was really uncomfortable at times, and I think also too, the film took chances with things that normal films don't. I mean, you had the kid be the one that was brutalized. That's typically the opposite. The kid is usually the, hey, hands off, and then Mia being the only black kid within this crew, she was the bad guy, essentially, if you ask me. And that's something that folks are scared to do at times too. And I think that was different, which I definitely enjoyed, to see a character that kind of keeps you on edge, kind of keeps you guessing. And as I mentioned, truly the villain. Truly the villain.
Definitely.
So go ahead.
I was really not going to get into like the specifics, but like I loved the way that this film ended, because you got like oftentimes you'll have.
I do you a favor. We are going to get into specifics. Let's talk about the ending, David. We're giving it to you here. You do this best. Break down the ending of this film.
Okay, so like after Mia possesses the hand, she starts to see more and more visions of these spirits without the hand, which is One thing they didn't really explain, which is one of the things I didn't love, like you don't understand why she and this other person before at the start of the film started having visions without the hand. Whatever, we'll accept it. But eventually the spirits like show her what is happening with Riley, and Riley is like being tortured. And so Mia gets in her head that she is going to end his pain for the good of him, like get him out of that world. And it goes badly for everyone except Riley. And Mia eventually like seems to kill herself to prevent herself from killing Riley. Like she takes him to the edge of this highway. She's going to push him into this highway to end his pain. But she at the last minute decides that she is going to kill herself instead. But then it has this great like scene where she gets up after this accident. You're like, oh, now she's like a superhuman. Like she survived a car crash. Like she is this like zombie type character. And then you go to the hospital and she sees Riley in the hospital room and the family around. They seem happy. As she's walking down, she sees her father walking away, who had died earlier. So it seems like his spirit is here also. But as she's walking
did he
down,
die? Because I don't know if this did it. He was just there and like kind of like.
I think the implication is he died. I think they brought him to the hospital because he got stabbed, and then he died at the hospital, and that's why he was walking down the hospital
to the elevator. Very that metaphorical saying. Yeah, metaphorical
hallway. But as she's walking down the hallway, it gets darker and darker around her, and eventually, like all the lights turn off. She's trying to pursue her dad. She's going towards the elevator, and all the lights turn off, and so she's now left in utter darkness. And you're like, what is going on? And then she sees off in the distance this light pop up, this like candle light. And the way that you start the ceremony is you light a candle and then you grab the hand and you say, talk to me. And so Mia, like a moth to the flame, is drawn to the light. She sees it, she gets close, and when she gets to the light, we're transported to this like, I don't know, Spanish teen party. Like it's like a Latin American group of kids, and a kid has his hand out. Mia grabs his hand and the kid says, talk to me. And so like now Mia is one of these like wandering ghosts, which I loved that, horror often tries to have these like bleak endings, but they feel kind of tacked on. It feels like, everyone is fine. And then, oh my God, the killer jumps out at the last minute somehow. But this one felt like it was a bleak, like hopeless ending that was right on point with like everything that had happened in the film.
Yeah. Well said. If I'm in the writer room here, it's absolute cheers because we nailed this ending. Yeah. As you said, I was a huge fan of the ending. I'm very optimistic as to what the filmmakers do next, but also do they do something else with this? This has a lot of legs, and obviously lessons learned. They'll listen to reviews and critics and see the things they might have missed on. Do we go back more into the origins, or do we just keep going forward? And I think that. Either way, I think it's going to work out, and I think I'm on board for it. So, talk to me again is what I'm going to predict what it's going to be called. But yeah, in the winners column for the Play Stupid Games victory lap, it is Mia. She absolutely got it, and good for her.
Yeah, she won this. She lost the war, but she won the game. So.
Anything else you want to add here, sir?
No, I think I actually don't want anything else in this world. Like I think the story is nice and self-contained, and I don't. As much as it was frustrating to not have some of the like parameters of this artifact to explain why some things happen, like I'm okay with the story. I want to see what these filmmakers do next in a different world with a different kind of concept, and just see their take on it, because I very much enjoyed Talk to Me. I thought it was a nice, refreshing, brutal film that like clearly they love horror, and clearly they are much younger than me, so they have that energy of youth, and so it was fun to see that combination, and I'm excited to see what happens next.
Absolutely. And I think if there's any specifics in the story, is the story of, does anybody go looking for Mia? Is anybody motivated? Does Jade wants to go find Mia? Is Riley ready to go back into a world that he may have not escaped? And nonetheless, I think there's definitely something for them to work with. But if they don't, as you mentioned, very self-contained, very, very much a watch, very much a purchase, if you ask me. And I think when this hits streaming, I think this is going to become even bigger. I think folks are going to love this film. Folks are going to talk about this film. And I think this cast. I think we'll be seeing them from years to come. Very young nucleus and a lot of talent definitely in the cast. And listen, poor Joe. Could I keep going back to Joe as Riley? He had to sit still for a lot of this film and just be caked up, you know, with all the prosthetics here. But that's still acting, and man, did he have a ride in this one? That would be the first person I would want to talk to. Is like, man, so talk to me about when you read you had to bash your head against the wall a couple of different times. How was that? You know?
Yeah. How are you sleepy? Like, can you sleep? Like that was those are some rough scenes.
Yeah. Anyway, folks, talk to me. A24 project, because we want to make sure you're watching the right one here. It's coming to theaters July 28th. Get in the comments, let us know your thoughts, your hype, your excitement for this film. Definitely step over to watchingpass.com and on YouTube and check out David's review. He has his review available for you right now, and as always, stick around for more reviews and content from the two of us very soon. Thank you for watching, folks.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely, dude.